Hello there, people of the internet. How's everyone doing today? I'm doing alright. Thanks for asking. Welcome to basically the only gun show in existence that also gives life advice. Because gun shows are about more than just guns, they're about the people pulling the triggers as well. Now, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and we're going to dive right into our comfort item for this segment. Go ahead and get yourself whatever comfort item you feel like having, whether or not it's a nice food or a beverage. Maybe grab yourself a beer or a shot of vodka, bowl of ice cream. Do whatever you got to do. My particular comfort item for today is actually not a food or beverage of any kind. It's something a little bit different, a little bit special. I've got me a Perdomo Habana brand cigar right here that I've obviously already taken a couple puffs on, just to unwind from the very long and arduous day that I've had so far. And this right here is a very nice, very comforting cigar. Exactly what I needed right now. And that's the point of a comfort item, to be comforting. Now, today's topic is actually very, very special. Today's topic might be one of the more important topics that I've discussed on the channel, because if you cannot master this, then any other types of improvement you try to have, you simply won't be able to progress with them. Oh man, this is a good tasting cigar. It's a very good tasting cigar, and it smells absolutely divine. I don't smoke very often, and I never smoke cigarettes, you know. Whenever I do, they're normally just large cigars, and only on special occasions. But whenever I do, man, I love it so much. Although I probably completely butchered the name of that cigar. So I'm white, and I can't really pronounce Spanish all that well. You know, assuming that it is even Spanish. All I know is that it's a great cigar. Anyway, let's move on. The very foundation of what it means to improve your lifestyle or yourself as a person can be astonishingly difficult. Can be astonishingly difficult. One of the hardest things people have to get by is burning out right as they're starting off trying to improve themselves. And a lot of this attributes to basically already being burnt out whenever you first start trying to improve your life. So many people find themselves completely, basically scraping rock bottom whenever they decide to try and reach greater heights than they ever have. Some people can just manage to do it, but there are so many others who just don't have the strength and the willpower to start improving their lives because they're already just burnt out from struggling to maintain their lives. I myself fall right smack dab in the center of that category. I basically like face planted this category whenever I came up with this topic. In my earlier years, I had so many just goals and dreams and ambitions, and I still do. The only difference is back then I just had so much strain and struggle with how I was going about maintaining my current lifestyle that I just could not gather the necessary willpower. You stay right goddamn there and you don't move, okay? I just did not have the necessary willpower to step up and actually do what I had to do in order to improve the lifestyle that I had. Now, I did have the desire, but I just didn't have the strength. I went around and I talked to people who are actually doing better than I was, and I asked them, hey, how the hell do you actually go about, doing what you're doing? And they always said, set goals and chase it relentlessly and don't give up on anything no matter what you do. But I simply already, before I even set those goals, I had already given up. I just was not strong enough to make a significant impact in my life in terms of improvement. Now, it did take me a little while to kind of not necessarily recover from this, but to discover the steps that I needed to take in order to be able to improve. After a bunch of unnecessary soul searching, I figured out that my biggest issue whenever it came to improvement was the fact that I simply was not strong enough to do so. Whenever you're going through that issue, it doesn't really become apparent that that's the issue until you actually decide to look into what the issue might be. And that was the issue. I just was not strong enough. I was already burnt out before the improvement even started. Just maintaining my life burnt me out horrendously. So right then and there, I had already made my first improvement and I didn't even know it. I had a goal. I had a very, very simple goal, although it was extraordinarily abstract. My goal was to get stronger. Get strong enough to where I can handle the maintenance of life. This way I can focus on improving far easier, and I wouldn't have to put so much effort into just maintaining life. After quite a bit more soul searching, I needed to figure out what in my life was holding me back so horrendously to make just this maintenance of my life so difficult. And I ended up, over time, discovering that it was genuinely me. Back then, I was in such a dark hole. I was so horrendously depressed. Like, normally people, whenever they're really depressed, they'll sleep. But whenever you are really, really depressed, like so depressed to where you can barely even move, you don't really sleep. That's how absolutely depressed I was. So this right here gave me at least a starting pathway to figuring out what to do to make myself stronger. I had to figure out why I was depressed. So I ended up tracing back some memories, reading through some journals, and I kind of, over time, slowly pieced this with that and that with this, and I remembered how I felt back at a certain point of time, and it was still how I felt today. And I figured out my depression stemmed from what somebody else had done to me a long time ago, and I never really recovered from that. And after trying to figure out why, I finally came to a conclusion as to why I was still suffering so horrendously. And it was very deeply because I wanted my suffering to actually mean something, or at least be justified. And until that happened, I was willing to continue to suffer for that goal right there. I was stuck in very literally just this endless loop, and I made myself suffer more and more and more as time went on. It got to the point to where I was just in so much pain from just wanting my pain to mean something. I was in so much pain, and there was so much weight on my shoulders that just standard maintenance of life was so much of a burden to me that a lot of times I couldn't even manage them. Now, for the longest time back then, I thought that maybe, somebody else or somebody else would come into my life, or I could learn from somebody else or develop a skill from somebody else. I thought that somebody else would be the salvation I needed in order to break myself out of this endless loop, but it just didn't happen. The suffering I was going through was internal, and it took me a while to figure it out, but I figured out that I was the only one who could break myself out of that loop. Now, this wasn't just something that happened overnight. This was something that took a lot of convincing and a lot of repetitive reassurance. But as time progressed, I began to really see and understand that what happened to me back then was extremely unfair, and I did not deserve it, and I had no control over what had happened. And even to this day, I have a lack of control over what happened. There is literally nothing I can do about it right now, just as there was nothing I could do about it back then. With this realization, I decided to myself that the pain and suffering I had made myself endure was understandable. With what I had gone through before that, if I was not suffering, it would have been surprising. So I had told myself that what I had gone through was alright, considering the circumstances of what I've endured. I told myself that what I had gone through was okay. Not in the sense that it had been justified, but in the sense that I was allowed to do it, considering how bad things were. This idea in itself gave my suffering some sort of meaning. And as time progressed, I slowly began to forgive myself for all of the suffering that I have put myself through in hopes of it meaning something. I began to tell myself it's okay. Forgiving myself for what I put myself through was the very first stepping stones to what I needed to do to get stronger, start maintaining life a bit better, and finally move towards improvement and advancement. Maintaining life slowly became easier as my suffering from what had happened slowly began to fade. My depression began to sort of lift, at least a little bit, and as I was able to maintain easier and actually start improving, my mood got better. I saw what I was able to do, and my mind wasn't just clouded by hate and the desire for vengeance. I finally, after so many years of trying to get out of that rut, I finally started to see how I could at least begin to take the first steps to moving upwards. I finally was able to look at tomorrow versus what yesterday had done to me. Being able to make yourself strong enough to maintain life comfortably so you can focus on improving is by far the most important factor and aspect that you will ever find for improving. If you are struggling just to get through day by day by day, then planning for tomorrow and the next day and the next day will be almost impossible. Now, perhaps your maintenance of life is not based off of depression or being down in a rut or anything like that, and you just have too much on your plate. That's whenever you'll have to look into getting rid of things that aren't necessarily essential, or getting rid of things that are holding you back. If you have too much on your plate, then there's nothing that should stop you from improving unless there's something on your plate that's negative and holding you back. And that right there is exactly what you need to look into getting rid of. Where did my cigar go? Hold on a second here. I forgot all about it. Man, that's a tasty cigar. Alright, well, if you enjoyed this and would like to see more from basically the only gun-related channel that actually addresses and tries to assist people with their state of mind versus complaining about it, go ahead and subscribe down below. If you like the video, do me a solid and like the video. If you know someone who is suffering from this particular situation, go ahead and relay this information to them. You don't even have to share the video with them. I don't really care about that. Just talk to them about the subject. Who knows, you might do them some good. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share. Check out the Patreon page. I do some pretty interesting Q&As on that. I'm going to go ahead and finish my cigar, and I'm probably going to make something to eat, too. Ooh. Actually, I'm going to read something. Yeah, I've been wanting to read these medical books for a little while now. So I'm a nerd. Get over it. I like reading medical books. Wow, that actually sounded a little creepy there. It might come in handy if I ever need to know something to save a life. I don't want to be in a situation where I could have saved a life if I actually had the knowledge, but I didn't have the knowledge. So, I'm not going to be in that situation. I've decided I'm not going to. That's why I've gotten so involved with medical stuff. Anyway, that's a whole other topic in itself. I'm going to go smoke a cigar, read a book, make some dinner, probably have a shot of whiskey or two. You guys go off and have a fantastic day.